Hey guys, it's Andrew, and it is not even 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, but I have committed to making fresh from scratch cinnamon rolls, and those take a little bit of time, not to make, just to rise. So let's get started. I have my mixer. I have the paddle attachment on the mixer right now, so that's going to be important because we're going to flip out the paddle for the hook in a bit. I have warm milk, so the first thing we're going to do is take our yeast and pour it in our warm milk. And it's 8 and I haven't had all my coffee yet, or not 8 yet, so I forgot my spoon. So we're going to stir this up and we're going to get started with get yeast kind of moving. So we're going to eventually put half a cup of sugar into this dough, but I like to put about a tablespoon of sugar in with the yeast. That gets the yeast super happy and kind of jumping and excited about what they're about to do. We have 4 cups of flour and 1/2 cup of flour reserved. So we're going to start with 4. We'll then move to a half, and we might need a little bit more depending on kind of the air and the mood of the flour and how the yeast is feeling today. So I will admit that yeast risen breads are not my strong suit. But I have done this this recipe over the years, and I do like it. It works well for me. So I'm going to use it. So we have half a cup of sugar. Remember, we took a tablespoon out of this to put in the yeast, but we're going to go ahead and drop that in there. We have a teaspoon of salt, because salt makes everything better. And we're going to mix the dry ingredients together for just a minute. We want this yeast to sit in this for a couple minutes, so that, again, it can hydrate and kind of get active. You'll hear on other shows and things like that that you want it to start looking bubbly. That is absolutely true. That can take 3 or 4 minutes. It can take 10 minutes, depending on your kind of how awake your yeast are. But again, we want to mix in the salt. So salt kills yeast, so you don't ever want the yeast to hit the salt right away. But we're going to mix it into the flour and make sure that it's all there. Before we pour in the liquid ingredients, our liquid ingredients include 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk, half a cup of melted butter, the 1 cup of milk, and the yeast mixture and then we have our leftover flour is kind of all we have left to put in here. It's a pretty simple dough. It's super enriched with the butter and the egg yolk, so it's got a lot of fat in it. It ends up being a really nice, light, kind of like unctuous situation. So yeah, so it's really good. So I'm going to take a drink of my coffee for a hot second. Hope everybody's having a great morning. Yay. That's super hot. All right, so our yeast is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's bubbling already, which means we had nice, good room temperature yeast to start. So we're going to start by pouring the yeast in. And you'll see why we're starting with a paddle mixture here as this mixes. A dough hook just doesn't bring a dough together like this super well. So having the paddle to start is a great way to kind of kick things off. We're going to add our eggs. And our nice warm melted butter will help continue that yeast blooming situation. We're going to hold it down, put the lock on, get it to bring the dough together. Okay, so just until it's brought together, then we're going to clean off the paddle. It's going to be really sticky right now because it hasn't really kind of kneaded and things. And the one reason I like this dough recipe specifically is because it is a mixer-driven kneading process. You do not have to knead this by hand if you don't want to. Put your dough hook on, put it in, put it on medium speed, lock your mixer down, and let it go for 7 to 9 minutes. You're going to use this extra flour to dust the sides of the bowl as it's kneading, in case it starts to stick. So like right now it's sticking, so we're going to put a little bit of extra flour in to keep it from sticking. It'll absorb that flour and kind of work away. So we're going to let this knead, and then we're going to come back in a few minutes so you don't have to sit here and listen to me babble on and drink my coffee. So we'll be back in a few minutes to show you what the dough looks like and show you how to finish it up before for its first rise.